Hi, everybody. It's Michelle here at Solo in Canada, Musings from Midlife. And today I'm here to talk to you about how to design special moments in your life when you are a solo. Because the one thing I think that is absolutely critical and the rule that I think you must live by is that you cannot let special moments in your life, whether they're little ones or big ones, you cannot let them pass you by uncelebrated simply because you don't have a partner who is fulfilling the role of doing that for you. So when you're partnered up on your birthday, in general, I would think for most people, it's assumed that it will be the spouse who set something up that's fun or in some small way, whatever your norm is in your relationship, that recognizes your important day, say if it's your birthday. In fact, I think that if the partner doesn't recognize your birthday, that's when you usually hear somebody doing some complaining about that and using it as evidence that the partner no longer cares for them. And then once that information gets out that the partner didn't acknowledge their important day, you see a lot of, tisk-tisking and people shaking their heads and saying, "What were you thinking?" And that's an absolute no-no for the people who are supposed to be important in your life. So the thing is, when you're solo, you don't have that partner who is recognizing those important moments for you. And they can be wide and varied, it can be as simple as your birthday, or it can be, important achievements in your career, certain postings that you've been granted or promotions. It can be holidays, and recognizing the holidays. It can be milestones for, things like graduations, if you've gone back to school, um, if you've achieved a certain level of credentials. All of those things are all important. And it's important that you get recognized for that. But if you don't have a spouse, there is a very high chance, unless you happen to have somebody very thoughtful in your life who lives close by, there is a very high chance that those special moments won't be recognized. So, what to do about it? Well, I think that a lot of people might say it's okay, it's no big deal. But I don't really agree with that. I do think that that's what my natural inclination has been, is to do that, is to say, "Oh, it's not important. I'm a big girl, I can handle it. It doesn't need to be made important." But I think over time, that when that accumulates and you go by years with big deals not being made and special moments not being recognized, I think that can have a negative impact on you. It can lower your self esteem. You can start to feel like you're not as important as other people. And you take on a little bit of that narrative that, you don't deserve to be treated well in that capacity. So I think that it's important. I think the other thing that can happen is that inside, quietly, you have all these little indications that nobody cares about you, because all of those moments that would have been recognized don't get recognized. And over time, it stacks up into a tower of proof to you that you are unloved and uncared for, and that nobody cares about what's happening in your life. So I I think that it's important to set something up in your life so that those moments are recognized. So how do you go about doing that? Well, I think that you should do the things that you would have liked to have done if you were with a partner. So, if it's your birthday and you would have liked to have been taken out to a nice dinner, then invite three friends and say to them, "Listen, I have a really special day coming up. It's my birthday next week, and I really don't want to spend that sitting home alone. I'd like to go out and have a nice dinner. I can't afford to pay for all you guys, But would you be interested in getting together for dinner with me? You don't have to, like, bring gifts or anything like that. But I just want to get out of the house and I just want to have a special night. And you guys are my favorite people, so I would love to spend it with you. Are you free to go out? So something like that. If you had something really special happen at work or, unexpected in your life, pick up the phone and call one other person. If you try to line up three people and it's all last minute, you're probably not going to get that. But call one special person and say, you're never going to guess what just happened to me. Are you free to meet me for a drink after work? I would love to, it's on me. So you buy them a drink and you meet them so that you can tell them all about your special excitement. So those kinds of things I think are really important. Even if it was only an hour and you just had this hour after work where you were telling someone all the excited thing that happened to you, I think that you would go home on a high rather than coming home to an empty house where you walked through the door on a high, but then you looked around and realized you had no one to share that high with. And all of a sudden, you just start to, little bit by bit, you start to feel like a bit taken down from that high slowly. And suddenly your whole emotions can flip within a couple of hours because you didn't do anything special and you had nobody to share it with. So I think that's really important. For really big moments, like say you're, leaving a job that you really have been trying to get out of for years and you finally got another job and now it's the last day of your job, it's coming up, and invite people over, have a party at your place. It doesn't have to be expensive. You can have people over after dinner. Invite them to come over for after dinner for a get together. And it can be big or it can be small. But if you make sure it's not happening over a mealtime, then you don't have to invest that much. But you are making it something special and you're, entertaining other people. And the thing is that you're actually, by sharing important things in your life, you're giving them an indication that you consider them to be a special person in your life. And then they also will hopefully feel that you are a special person in their life and you might get invited into some of their celebrations. The other piece of advice I have for you, and this isn't just for solo people, this is for couples too, is I think it's really important that you give the people around you in your world on information that helps them to see how you prefer to be, treated. So if you were in a couple, that's all about your love language, or in a family, if you can say to them, if something disappointed you and nobody acknowledged something that was important to you and it hurt, staying quiet and just letting that hurt fester is no good for any relationships. And especially if it's something that's going to come up year after year. So I know somebody who was very unimpressed with the way their family had approached a very big milestone birthday for them. And so, as it was happening, and the fact that nobody was even acknowledging that this was a really big birthday, I think it was their 50th. I'm sure it was. It was their 50th. And nobody had even wished them a happy birthday. And everybody was just acting like, it was a normal day. And they were expecting her, because she was the mom, they were expecting her to still do all of the, the work around the house and the things taking care of them, that she called it on them. She called a meeting and she let them know how unimportant they made her feel and how upset that made her. And she wasn't going to tolerate being treated like that. I think that was brave of her. And that turned things around. They realized their own, behavior contributed to hurting a family member in a way that they would not have meant it to be. And I also know another couple where the first year they were together, he didn't acknowledge her birthday in a way that she planned, she had acknowledged his birthday. And so they had a conversation about it. And she said, this is important to me. And it doesn't make me feel good when you don't do that, when you look at how much effort I went out for yours. And so, they were able to communicate and turn that around. For me personally, I learned from them because in my relationship, I never spoke up. I didn't, because I didn't feel it, you know, that I should tell somebody, how to treat me. I felt like I couldn't trust if they then treated me that way, that it was genuine and that they were only doing it because they had to, because I told them that's what they had to do. And so I didn't have the right attitude towards it. I didn't have the mindset for it. And it was damaging, I think, looking back. I do think it was damaging. So I think that I learned particularly from those two people who were in situations where they felt that, the response from others in their world didn't meet their expectations, and they communicated that effectively, that was really healthy and very mature. It was a very mature response and very healthy and positive. And I think it did wonders for relating in the future. I also know of somebody who was retiring, and they decided to hold their own retirement party for themselves because they knew that if they didn't hold a retirement party for themselves, nobody else would. And they also knew that if they had left their career after 30 something years and there was no fanfare at the end of it, and they just quietly walked out the door and went home to a quiet house, that they would be pretty devastated by that. And so they made sure that that wasn't going to happen to them. So they planned the whole thing, and they tried to find inexpensive ways to do it because, these mosquitoes are terrible. They tried to find inexpensive ways to do it, and they had a party, and the party probably cost them some money. I know that because it was a beautiful party. And luckily it was at a good time of year where they could hold it outside. But they had, lots of people bringing potluck stuff, but they did have music, and they had it went on quite the evening, but everybody brought their own lawn chairs, and it was an excellent way to wrap up a career, and not something that I personally would have done. For me, I would have been too shy to do that. I'm in the wrong there, I think, for sure. I am in the wrong. And I really think I was lucky that people made a big deal when I left my job. And so I was very fortunate that that happened. If that hadn't happened, I would have been really sad. And yet this person who threw their own party, they weren't sad. They had a blast. So, learn from them. Other ways to recognize big moments in your life: if you're not a person that's going to have a party, or you're just not going to pick up the phone and invite people out and tell them it's an important day for you. Another way to recognize it is to just plan a weekend away for yourself to celebrate something big in your life. Do something out of the ordinary. So maybe plan an overnight trip where you get on the road and you drive somewhere and you book a night overnight somewhere. Or if money is an issue, then plan a day trip. Just where you're getting out of town and you're creating some kind of a special day around it. Maybe take the train into the city and go to a museum that you haven't been to in 20 years. And then stop at it, look up where's a great place to, get lunch, and stop and have yourself a nice lunch, and just make it a special, unusual day. If whatever your special moment is something that you get some form of paper recognition from, then buy a frame and put that up. So if it's a diploma that you receive after years of working hard on top of your job, having to take courses at night and study on the weekends, and it took you years to work at it part-time and you finally achieved it, make sure that diploma is framed, and have some kind of a special dessert or some form of recognition around that, or take some photos and, send them to your closest friends with a big, look what I finally achieved, so that you can get some congratulations messages back. But for sure, like, just don't ignore things like that. So now I'm going to talk about vacations, because, at work you might get 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks vacation, and maybe you have nobody to go on vacation with. I would hope that you'll go and do something anyway. But if you truly cannot find anything that you want to do, can afford to do, or feel comfortable doing on your own, don't just sit at home for your entire vacation doing what you normally do every single day. Make it special in some way. Change your hours. Come up with new meals, get some kind of a cookbook, that's something new that you've wanted to explore, like a vegan cookbook or Greek cooking, or, Asian cooking or something. And set yourself a challenge to learn that one new recipe a day, or some other project that you want to take. Maybe you want to sign up for 3 days of learning how to build something, or following a painting class online. But do something special and different with your time, so that your vacation time truly does feel special, fun, and like a diversion for yourself from work. Because if you just go home and you do nothing different for the 2 weeks you're off, and you come back and everybody's like, oh, how was your vacation? What'd you do? And you have nothing to report, you do start to feel like, a bit of a loser. You feel like it's depressing rather than something exciting, because most people have a lot of excitement around their vacation time, and you feel the stark difference. And just a mid-show interruption on the message to just ask you, please don't forget to like and subscribe on the button below if you're getting any value from these videos, because it's the only way that Google's going to think that my videos are worth promoting to other people. So please like and subscribe, or share this video with a friend, or somebody in your life who's solo that you think would benefit from hearing the message. And here's the thing, really, this is the experience I've learned after a lot of years living. And that's why I think that you see a lot of people in their 50s and 60s now creating YouTube videos, is because we have lived through it. And we can now look back with more perspective, sort of, a better overall look at everything that we did, and the way other people, interacted with us, and how it all worked out, and see we have a little bit more wisdom, a little more hindsight. And we want you younger people to learn from us, youth who are just going into, your late 40s and moving into the 50 ranges. Sometimes there are stoic, independent demeanor is not really serving us, and also not allowing other people to show up for you. I used to never tell people anything about my life, because I didn't want to burden them, and I didn't want them to think I expected anything from them. But looking back, I should have expected something from them. And it's not burdening them, it's allowing them the opportunity to show up for you. And if they can't see any way that they can show up for you, you are the one creating the roadblock in terms of developing deeper relationships. I truly feel that about myself now, looking back. So last year, it was my birthday. I was working. And of course, I never tell people about it's my birthday, because I don't want anybody to know. I don't know why. It's stupid, right? So it's my birthday, and I had plans with 2 girlfriends for dinner, and I was really looking forward to it. But I hadn't told either one of those girlfriends it actually was my birthday. We just lined up going out to dinner, and I made sure it was on the night of my birthday so that I wouldn't be sitting at home alone. And both of them canceled on me in the morning of that day. They both sent texts. One of them wasn't feeling well, and the other one They had put the wrong date on the calendar, and there's no way that they could do it today because they were overwhelmed at work. And so they both canceled on me, and I was so disappointed. However, I had already told people at my work that morning when I came in that it was my birthday, because I'm getting older and wiser. And then when I got the text, they were there. So then they were aware that my two friends had canceled on me. And they were so sweet and lovely. One of them had made up some reason why they needed to do an errand, and they quickly ran out. I guess a couple of them had chatted in private without me hearing that they were going to make, my day a little special. And so one of them ran out while the others covered for her, and she went down to the store and they bought a couple things for me. The rest of the day, oh, and they'd gotten me, a special treat to have at lunch. It it was really nice. And by me telling them in the morning that was my birthday and then letting them know that my friends had canceled on me, I wasn't doing a big, oh, woe is me, this is terrible, or anything else. I just went, oh, that's a bummer. It's okay. They were able to show up for me in a way that I have not forgotten because it was sweet. And that was also the first time that I had kind of let people know that it was my birthday. And then I realized by me letting them know, they were able to make it special for me. If they didn't know, I would have gone through the rest of the afternoon a little bit depressed, feeling kind of, just like those are one of those days when you're solo, things aren't working out too well for you. And instead, I went home on a high. It was great. In fact, if my two friends who canceled on me had known it was my birthday, my guess is that at least the one who wasn't sick wouldn't have canceled and asked us to do it on another day. She probably would have showed up knowing it was my birthday and it was an important day and not wanting me to be left at home by myself on my birthday. So I really do believe now that you need to speak up more. You need to communicate, and there's nothing wrong with doing that in a quiet way. You're not like a petulant, demanding, spoiled little brat demanding people do things for you. It's not like that at all. But you just give people the information so that they can do something with that information instead of keeping it all to yourself and then feeling very much unrecognized and unloved later. And particularly when it comes to your extended family, your adult kids, your grandkids, and holidays, just remember, really, if people can't be there on the 25th to celebrate Christmas, but they all can be there on the 28th, that's good. You need to release the attachment that you have that everything has to be on a certain day or it's no good. And here's the thing about living solo is you want to design an excellent solo life. You don't want to just be getting by or making do. You want to design a happy, fulfilling, and just joy-filled life. So get a piece of paper and map out. I always kind of pretend that I'm looking back on my life at the very end of it. Pretend you're 100 years old and somebody's writing kind of a storyline about you and this life that you led as this independent person, and write out this kind of fictitious life in all the ways that you think would have made it an incredible life. And then put those things in place. Find ways, even at a modified level, find ways that you can design a similar life to that so that you actually are leading your most fulfilling life. Because people can. It's all up to you. So this is Michelle at Solo in Canada, Musings from Midlife. I hope you enjoyed the show today. Don't forget to check out my blog at www.soloincanada.ca and check out my other videos too, because I'm working hard to put many of them out there and to build this channel. I'd love to hear your comments or share your stories in either my blog or the videos so that we can start to develop a bit of community. And let me know what you'd like to hear about, because at this point, I'm not really quite sure what you'd like to hear about.